Hello there folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss on different topics. And well, I've been starting to actually feel more and more the idea of, the purpose. I kind of feel one of them that I kind of feel I have, that of a dream demolisher, which I kind of have been for a lot of my friends. Now, in case you don't know, this channel will discuss on different topics like spirituality, dream interpretation, well, also game interpretation. If you're a game designer or developer and you're creating your own project and you want some constructive feedback, feel free to give me a link. Um, I will also discuss on different other topics, depends on my capability to answer them. Usually I won't take into account political things, not because of political correctness, but I'm not that interested in this topic, or ideas of so these equality illusions, okay, gender equality and such, okay. It's not that I can't. I always discuss everything bluntly and directly, presenting my points of view as well as let's say neutral standpoint as well. um, so yes, this video will be about astral projection and the grand illusion that people are suffering from. Well, let's actually start with a little definition about what astral projection is called in Wikipedia. And you see, it's called a term used in esotericism to describe an intentional, okay, out of body experience that assumes the existence, okay. So it says assumes the existence of a soul or consciousness called astral body that is separate from the physical body and capable of traveling outside it through the universe. Okay, now this one is as flawed as can possibly be. And well, I'm not here to support your illusions, I'm here to break them. So if you're gonna feel uncomfortable about your expectations and illusions about astral projection, and you're gonna have some thoughts suddenly popping up that I'm speaking bonkers, well, you should either stop watching this video, or if you're more aware and conscious, you should probably realize that those thoughts in your mind don't belong to you, but they are just some traps you've fallen into, and most likely they will want to keep you trapped in instead of actually allowing you to listen to what I have to say. Okay, now, even this definition here easily proves how little people know about astral projection, what it really is, how to be performed, and well, unfortunately, what people call an astral projection is nothing else than, um, how to put it bluntly, a hallucination. Yes, a hallucination. I'm sure people will most likely feel attacked. Probably they will say, "But wait, what about my memories? I have been doing this. I have been traveling there." Now, many people simply don't know one thing. Okay, the enlightened Buddha. Okay, although Buddha is a title, not the person themselves. There have been many Buddhas in the world, but Gautama Buddha, okay, will always be taken into account as one of the, uh, let's say, better enlightened beings, because they adopted a very scientific approach, okay. Now the biggest problem nowadays, and this is a huge problem, because this is what makes people slaves of their own mind, willingly and unwillingly, is the problem that people simply cannot seem capable of understanding or accepting something unless it makes a certain sort of sense to them, but you never know what something actually makes sense to you, because that is a belief. Now, what is a belief? Well, a belief means accepting something without the necessity for proof. So if you're accepting something automatically without the necessity for proof, well, how do you know it is real for you? Just because you have an impression that it clicks with you? Well, don't mind me wrong, but there will be many situations in which you might have an impression, and an impression is again a belief, that something clicks with you, but it's just some thought form that somewhat or in some way subverted you to accept it, or karmically speaking you had to accept it, or for a certain reason, yes, it resonated in a way with you because, well, people have to experience and learn a lot of things. Now, I've gone through a lot of sources and things that have constantly been telling me that ever since I was born, I had my third eye open as well as my crown. So, my connection to the universe, I've been very knowledgeable of that ever since I was young. Now, of course, many people will try to say that, hey, probably I'm some kind of, loser trying to create their own, new spiritual empire and, probably some kind of cult. I want people, actually, I don't want. Well, people have to understand that I'm not here to create a cult, I'm not here to create a religion. I'm just here to break a lot of the illusions that people have gotten stuck into because the greatest aspect of spirituality, okay, and awakening is to realize how much you have been trapped in all these illusions, okay. There is a very great story about Gautama Buddha, okay. When he became enlightened, he actually realized how trapped he was because of his mind, because of his expectations, and because of programmings that he received. So he freed himself of that by simply going within and, well, discovering a lot of layers of the mind, but simply arranged them in 7 so-called layers, okay. Now, layers of the mind, among the layers of the mind are also elemental ones, okay. You might ask, but how? Wait, fire? Like, how is fire part of your mind? I mean, is fire part of the mind because, people have a fiery nature? Well, this can be a very nice pun in a way, but not necessarily, okay? Now, in our evolution, okay, in the whole evolution of the universe, there is elemental memory, okay? There is elemental structure. Now, the mind, what you refer to the mind, there is something called a mental body, okay? Now, the mind is much more complex, much broader than the brain itself, okay? And the brain can access different parts of the mind because the mind has, let's say, 4 main layers, okay, that we can take, okay. We have a first layer that is called cognition, okay, and cognition means to learn something, okay. Once you learn something, it is put in a huge vast library that I kind of knew about ever since I was young, but I kind of always lacked the words for it, okay. A second layer would be recognition, okay. Now it's called recognition because it actually means recognition, okay. Now, in terms of programming, because I've always been attracted to something which I called the mind code, or technically the deepest cores of the mind and the code it functions by, because there is always a code behind something. That code is basically intelligence itself, and intelligence is actually the way everything actually works in this world, okay. The flower will always know how to open up, and it always does that at the precise time, okay. The sun, each and every day the sun is up, okay. The sun is never late on the sky, okay. There is a tremendous amount of intelligence for that, okay, that governs and handles from astral bodies to the, the smallest ones, okay, up till the level of, atoms, okay. Now, it is very funny that even thousands of years ago, okay, many of the enlightened beings actually said their bodies are created of small bits, okay. Even Gautama Buddha, he said his body is created out of atoms. Now, of course, he didn't use the word atom, but around 2000 years, I think almost 3000, I don't know exactly, 2500, 2600 probably, he said his body is created out of, I forgot the word, okay, he said the specific word, okay, and he did realize this by simply going in. That is why I will kind of ditch science, because, well, science is an attempt to understand certain things, but it's an attempt at understanding things by looking outside. If you want to understand everything, you have to learn everything about yourself. Then, understanding this universe is very easy because you're part of it. Once you know how you the functioning of the universe is just somewhat, let's say, somewhat of a mirror, okay? Now, don't take it as a mirror of yourself, because you'll probably end up considering that the universe is egocentric. That's far away from the truth, okay? But The point is, okay, if you learn how the functions within you go, it's easy to understand even the whole universe, okay? Now, this recognition part, okay, is just like in programming, okay? Now, a library, what it means is technically just like you function. When you go into a library, you'll always look at the books from a certain direction to another direction, okay? Programming also works the same with something called an array. Okay, now an array means, let's say, a collection of data. Okay, and to go through that collection of data, you always start from the first position towards the last. Sure, you can start vice versa as well, but well, usually and by default, searching through such a collection happens from the beginning. Now there is a part within us, okay, let's call it the black box of our existence, and this one does nothing else than store each and every little bit of experience that we've been having, okay, from the smallest to the greatest, okay. And it's been proven scientifically that if someone, let's say when you sleep, because that's when you are most perceptible, okay, when you sleep, if someone whispers some words into your ear, even in a language that you don't know, there are ways of actually having you speak those things, even in your conscious state. And it's always been funny to see people's faces and how they end up reacting, okay. So this vast array, okay, is constantly being looked upon by the mind, okay, at speeds far beyond quantum computers, okay, because think about each and every second you're bombarded by literally thousands of sources, okay, and you're just perceiving 1%, probably even less than 1%, because the brain is that capable, okay. That is why I'm always reminding people that we are always around 3 seconds behind reality, because what you perceive is nothing else than what the brain simply did not ditch, okay, because the brain is constantly bombarded by thousands of vibrations and sources and dimensional sources and physical sources, okay. But what you see is just the end product, okay, because if the brain wouldn't dish out 99.9% of these, okay, you would simply go insane, okay. And yes, this recognition is actually the layer of the mind that it goes again. So one of the layers goes through these libraries to add new entries. The other one simply checks each and every entry to see the matches, right? And when you have an idea of a match, okay, it means that hey, you've actually experienced this before. Now again, this might be a little bit erroneous, because at the same time, yes, it can be a bit erroneous, right? I mean, how? Well, very easy. It can be erroneous because you also can make mistakes. You can misidentify or mismatch a certain word, and of course it is something else. And well, again, a new entry is done, the previous one is corrected, so this is how recognition would work, okay. And this one is actually very problematic in a way, because this is also a funny source, okay, that triggers or may give people the impression, okay, again another illusion of deja vu. A deja vu is technically experiencing something which you have experienced, and many people will go as far as having experienced that in previous lives. But you have to wake up to reality and realize that no, you're very, very unlikely to experience things from your previous lives, because think about this logically, okay? Most of the people simply can't handle their own life. The reason why they think about previous lives is that they simply want to run away from this life. Which means they're not taking responsibility for what they're feeling, what they're doing, and as such. Ever wondered why we have leaders? Well, simply, we have leaders and bosses because people are running away from their responsibilities. And bosses are here to remind people in a very brutal way that hey, you have to take care of your life and become responsible of that. So the next, let's say, important layer of the mind would be that of the emotion, okay. Once a certain action is recognized, okay, now it triggers an emotion, because what you are doing is technically you are calling to your memory, okay, and this memory simply functions in the sense that hey, this memory has an emotional attachment, because usually memory is created through emotional attachments, And that's how you trigger, well, I like this song, I hate this person, I like this, I don't like this, which equates to you having a lot of memory within your body, okay? And this memory is impregnated within your whole structure of the body, which can be very problematic because memory is very treacherous, okay? It is very tricky. How? Well, what you end up believing in eventually ends up as being more important than God or your God which you believe in, and literally life itself, because the functionality of your intellect, okay, of a part within you, is that it will even die for what you believe in. So take great care what you believe in, okay? Now to move even further, okay, the fourth aspect of the mind is something that you can actually take control of, and it is highly recommended that you actually take great responsibility in that. Now what do I mean? Well, what do I mean is this fourth one is actually let's actually call it reaction, okay? So there is action upon you, okay? The mind simply is bombarded by thousands of stimuli, okay? So that is the action, okay? Now reaction, this fourth layer of the mind, is actually how you react to that. Someone says you suck, you suddenly get angry because why do you get angry? Well, you get angry because you're projecting your past upon your present, okay? That person most likely swore at you several times, or that thing happened to you several times, or it didn't happen at all, but you're projecting wounds from the past, okay? So it's memory from the past onto your present, and unfortunately you're actually transforming your past into your future, okay? That means karma, okay? Now karma actually can also mean a circle, okay? Don't take karma as a circle, but karma in, you know, the Indian perspectives, okay, it means when someone makes their past become their future, they're actually, you know, how English puts it, they're moving in a circle, because, you know, there is a time which you start believing in that thing, you're suffering from it, and when the time comes to relinquish it, you're embracing it again, and therefore you're simply moving into circles. The reason is you're not taking responsibility, okay? You have to understand, okay, what has been in the past has been, it's affected me, okay? So all these illusions that I've been talking about, yes, I don't mind me, I like presenting a lot of things in a certain video, even if I end up speaking very little about a certain topic in the respective video. I do this so that people can understand things in a broader aspect, okay? I always stretch in all possible directions. That's how I learn things, that's how I communicate with the universe, because I'm not unidirectional, okay? I can't understand something in a single direction. You'll never ever get to understand anything about that. Most likely you'll end up with some beliefs, and if you ended up with some beliefs, that's dangerous, okay? I prefer functioning as far away from the mind, because the mind has thousands of ways to screw you up, okay? There have been many yogis, many enlightened beings who said, I don't need to use my mind because all the knowledge that people store in their minds is already there in Akashic records. I don't need to fill my mind with that also. The less you fill your mind with, the less ways it has to actually screw you over, okay? But you also have to fill it a bit, because the mind has all sorts of questions, and if you don't fill your mind at the same time and build some powerful pillars, okay, some stable pillars, you're gonna easily end up, you know, believing so many things, okay? So one way to do this is to make a certain, let's not call it a belief, but make a certain usage of your mind, okay? Specialize yourself in something and, you know, follow that, okay? And until you become so good it actually hurts, because if you don't stand for something that represents you, you're gonna fall for other people's beliefs and such, okay? Now this last layer, let's say, not the last, there are many more, this layer of reaction is actually that which people fail with, okay? This is where you have to learn to take responsibility over your actions and how you react, okay? Usually if you react unconsciously, you will always react in a wounded way, okay? So when something affects you, there are two choices, okay? There is actually a choice, okay? Two branches, let's say, like in RPG games, okay? You can either react unconsciously, okay, and get hurt, or you can react consciously and get wiser, okay? If you let your unconscious decide everything, you are letting fate, although fate doesn't exist, but let's actually say it like this, you're allowing circumstances, let's call it like this, to decide for you, which is kind of bad. Okay. Now, at the same time, if you react consciously, you're starting sooner or later to become more aware of the things within you and how your thoughts of the past, which most of them don't even belong to you, and emotions of the past, which again most of them don't even belong to you, have been shaping all sorts of ideas. And making this, turning this into a so shaky foundation, okay, you become a very unconscious person, okay, because if you let your past rule you, you are living unconsciously. When you're living unconsciously, you will live in urges. When you live in urges, you will live in misfulfillments, because urges cannot be fulfilled. Urges are egotistical. The more you want to fulfill them, it's never going to be enough. That's how it actually happens, okay? Now, to move even further, okay, every time you create urges, okay, and habits, these mean nothing else than living unconsciously. And mixing unconscious living, okay, with coupling it with a lot of misfulfillments, okay, because expectations mean misfulfillments, okay. Unconsciousness and misfulfillments equals dreams, okay. I know it sounds as a mindfuck, yes, most likely it will, but keep listening if you want to understand a bit more. But again, don't rush in taking whatever I say for granted, okay? These are truths of mine. Some of them have actually been experienced, some of them I still click, but I'm open to receiving what I need from the universe, and I'm receiving those at the right time. So don't rush in taking whatever I'm saying, okay? Don't rush in taking that for granted, okay? Now, to move further, okay, these dreams, okay, the more unconscious you are, the more you will dream, okay, because the function of a dream is nothing else than a representation of things you have locked up within you, and also misfulfillments, okay, unfulfilled desires, okay. Now, why am I saying this is this, okay, if you live consciously, okay, and you're taking responsibility for things, okay, the more conscious you live, you'll see that the less you will actually dream, okay. The more you dream, whatever you dream of, okay, take into account, because those are unfulfilled desires, okay. That is why so many people are having sexual dreams, okay, because we live in, especially in the Western world, there is still this much stupidity regarding this grand illusion of Christianity, okay, and the stupidity that people surround themselves and embrace, okay, of considering even sexuality as a taboo, okay. And I'm surrounded by a lot of those people, but well, they couldn't shape my beliefs. And well, there are a lot of people who suffer because they call their sexuality as taboo, okay. And the more you ignore something, you're actually feeding it. So that's how depraved people can actually be born, okay, because you will actually give up, okay, you will break at a certain point, and then you'll simply recuperate for all the times you have kept yourself away from that, okay. That's how so many people end up overdoing certain things, and I'm not talking about sexuality only, okay. So all these things, okay, all these fabulations of the mind simply have people believe all sorts of things. And again, I repeat, belief is a very dangerous, extremely dangerous thing, because once you embrace a certain belief, that becomes your reality, okay. It's not like you have been taught with another illusion called the law of attraction, okay, that if you believe in something, it's gonna come to you. No, 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 no. Nothing is gonna come to you if you believe in it. Everything comes to you if you work towards it, okay. Your belief simply means nothing. It's just a way you're fucking up your mind, and you're creating a twisted reality, okay, a twisted version of reality. And that's how you actually the more beliefs you have, the more separation you create, because when you create a lot of beliefs, you're suddenly going to consider yourself righteous, okay, at least at a certain time, and everyone who doesn't think like you, they're automatically the enemy, okay. So do take into account beliefs as a highly dangerous thing that people don't know how to use. So that is why a lot of people suffer, okay. Creating beliefs also equates to becoming less authentic. That is why people who have a lot of beliefs are not attractive, okay. People who don't necessarily have beliefs, or they have, acceptances, okay? They have their own truths that they have experienced, okay? Take for example some of the gurus, okay, the authentic gurus that, and even awakened people that you might see on television or on the internet with YouTube accounts, okay? Or not necessarily those, okay? People who are authentically doing something that they like, okay? When you're doing something that you like, you're more authentic in doing that than when you're doing things that you don't like, okay? And there are, let's say, two grand types of things that you don't like and you're doing, okay? Those that you're doing for the sake of that, okay, or to people please others, okay, and those you are doing just because you have to do them, okay? You're not people pleasing others, but you have to go through that step to achieve a certain greater aspect, okay? um, just like in my case, I'm into game development. I'm almost 19 months into it, okay, into game design. And yes, game development ain't necessarily funny, or you know I'm just doing minor scripts, but it can be uncomfortable at sometimes, but still I have to do it, okay? It is part of my passion, so I'm doing it just because I know I will reach somewhere further. Okay, now to move even further, okay, all these things, do understand that these are very powerful fabulations that untrained minds will almost never realize, okay? So now let's stick back to astral projection, okay? What is astral projection is definitely not what you have been trained, what you have learned, and it's definitely not learnable from a book, okay? Now, astral projection is something that the Amerindians were capable of doing, and the Indians also are capable of doing. It's a practice that's been known of for thousands and thousands of years, okay? Because many people believe that the world started not only with humans but with Christianity. So you have to understand there are thousands of, there are billions of years before Christianity. Christianity is just the smallest and, well, not smallest, it is very well spread, but Christianity is one of the youngest, if not the youngest religions ever, okay? It has around 2000 years, and in Europe it has less than 1000 years, okay? So, or well, yes, it has actually in some places more than 1000 years, but okay. So if you look in here, okay, you will see, well, I don't know what Forteana means, okay? Anomalous phenomena. Okay, let's not dive into this. Ghost hunting is another favorite illusion of a lot of people. There are very few people who can actually do this, but you're kind of rarely gonna do that with machines like in the movie. Occult means hidden knowledge, okay? Basically everything that is spiritual is occult, because it is called occult because it is hidden from the five senses, okay? Paranormal and the such, everything like that. All these psychic readings, psychokinesis and the such, radiesthesia, these are all parts of the huge domain that occult is, okay? So to dive into astral projection, okay, astral projection is something that usually happens in a group, okay? There are groups of people, there are multiple sorts of protections that you have to do, okay? Why all of these people who are doing nothing else than, they're writing books about their fabulations and hallucinations, okay? Many people are also taking drugs, unfortunately, which means inducing even more powerful hallucinatory states upon themselves, and they're feeling that, oh my god, they're experiencing the world. Now I'm not judging, okay? Don't take me as judging, because I never judge, okay? I don't judge things, I just present them from a point of view that people are experiencing, so that I can actually present my points, dissect them, and not necessarily fight to prove people wrong, but present them other ways of perceiving life, and having people understand when they're actually seeing illusions, okay? Because I know one of my points in this world is to be a seer, okay? And a seer means seeing things the way they are, okay? Going beyond the so-called Maya, because Maya doesn't mean things around you don't exist, okay? You've probably bumped into this as well, that everything doesn't exist, okay? Everything is Maya, everything is illusion. No, everything is an illusion because, well, it actually exists. Everything that you touch, everything that you hear, everything that you see, it actually exists. but it doesn't exist the way you perceive it, because this body is meant to perceive them in a different way compared, let's say, to dogs, to other animals, and each individual of a certain race will also perceive their surroundings in a different way, okay? But the surroundings actually exist, this world actually exists, okay? It is not a simulation like other people say, okay? So no, screw those things, okay? That's another fabulation. So yes, now astral projection is something that targets the furthest aspects of your body, okay? Now remember that I said about memory and elements? Okay, so now memory is actually physical. You're probably gonna feel, what? Yes, memory is actually physical, okay? It is, yes, indeed, much less, it is much subtler. It is much subtler, yes. A lot of it can actually be beyond physicality. This is something a bit fuzzy for me, so I'm not gonna dive into details, okay? I never said and never will say that I'm a perfect person, okay? But what I present, most of them are also part of my experiences, okay? So don't take my experiences as being the only one and only truth, okay? Now, in terms of energy, okay, the smallest amounts of energy that we know, okay, are atoms, okay, and of course there are the smaller ones, okay, subatomic particles, okay. Now subatomic particles, okay, these are actually represented by the elements as well, okay. There is you know, imprints, okay, memory imprints of fire, you know, air, earth, water as well in those, okay. So these little particles actually have their own memory, okay. These actually have their own memory, and they're consciously working towards whatever needs to happen, because everything in this nature happens consciously. It doesn't happen unconsciously, okay? Now, again, to a certain extent and to us, yes, it can also be taken as an unconscious aspect, but nature and everything in here can also be taken as, you know, a conscious existence, okay? Now, this stems from the point that everything around us, we are calling it consciousness, okay. Now consciousness is not the right term for this, it's more like awareness, okay, because in the end a grand question would be, is creation conscious or unconscious, okay. Now ask yourself, if you believe in a so-called God, okay, now that again is a belief, so God as you know it definitely doesn't exist, it's just a product of human imagination and again hallucinations. I'm not saying there is no such thing as a creator, but we don't know what creation is, but we know how the creator looks. That's definitely a hideous belief. So again, the point is very simple, okay. Do you think this God is knowledgeable of your existence, okay? So definitely this creation, okay, exists at a level in which it's neither conscious nor unconscious, okay. Everything is created consciously, but at the same time it is unconscious of your existence, for example, or this planet's existence, okay. It's a very subtle plane, let's say, in between both of them, okay. Now you as life, you are definitely conscious because you know you exist, okay. Now the bigger problem, or let's not call it a problem but a fact, is, you know, everyone and everything dies, but not everyone actually lives, okay, because so many people disregard their emotions. That's already emotional death, okay, because if you don't experience emotions, okay, you're technically emotionally dead, okay. If you don't experience desire, you're technically dead, because life means desire, okay. Everything that you want, everything that you manifest is a desire, and dreams are unfulfilled desire. That is why you're having them. They're a way of the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind to remind you that, hey, these things are yet unfulfilled in your life. That's why you are having these dreams in which you see yourself as leaving your body, okay. Now I'm not saying that people are incapable of leaving their bodies, okay. I've actually had dreams myself in which I was conscious. I was also aware I was having a body, and in some cases I actually didn't have full control over that body, and there was this sensation, like physical feeling, that I would crumble because I was so so exhausted. And for example, in one of these situations, I was in the exact same place where I took a nap, okay. I was at work in a night shift, and yes, I can actually take naps, and I was beside my physical body, which I couldn't see because you can't see your physical body, okay, or you can see a sparkling gold, but it's very subtle. It's somewhat golden or white, okay. It's there. Like, I've actually tested this in one of these states, okay. I've put my hands in front of me and I couldn't see them. But I knew there was a white contour of those, and not white in the sense of soul, more like white in sense of white translucid, okay. No, a very dense white, just like you'd see flour, for example, okay. And I even touched my nose and I felt physical touch, okay, but I couldn't see those things, okay. When I was again in such a state at home, I had a fully physical sensation of the blanket I had on me, but it simply did not exist, okay. I couldn't simply see it. And every time this happened, for some reason I wouldn't look towards my body, and when I would look, I couldn't simply see it, okay. And I even had this tingling sensation, okay, of the computer's light, that tingling sensation that it has. You kind of don't like it because I close the light when I go take a nap, and the three screens are the only light, and it's kind of funny in a way, because I was in that state. I couldn't open my right eye, and I had knowledge that I had a chair behind me and that I wanted to take a sit on that, else I would simply collapse to the ground, okay. That can also mean that you have filled that body with so much karma, with so much memory, okay, that it's actually too heavy, okay. Astral projection is all about relinquishing as much of this unuseful memory, okay. I'm saying unuseful because this memory is not useless, but it can hinder you at times, okay. So attachments are a huge amount of memory, okay. And astral projection is something that targets the furthest body, okay, which some people call the bliss body, or let's call it the etheric body. Now, in Christianity it was called the soul, okay, but the soul kind of is a very narrow perspective, okay. Now, this body, okay, is the body that you can achieve when you achieve the so-called nirvana, okay. It is that state of absolution and absolute blissfulness, okay. When you reach this, is technically when you reach the level of awareness of that body, okay. That body is not physical, okay. It is beyond physicality. It doesn't have a predefined form. And when you reach the level of that, okay, when you become one and only, when you inhabit that body consciously, okay, that is when you simply don't need to look around. You're fully inside, and you simply are so blissed out, you're just dripping tears of joy. Basically, you're having actually waterfalls of tears of joy, okay. That's kind of the culmination of enlightenment, okay. And that's when you actually transcend physicality and impulses, okay. So astral projection actually targets that specific body, okay. Now, to consciously reach that body, okay, you'll probably need several lifetimes, okay, of intense meditation, and meditation is not gonna be enough, okay. You need to find the right people for this to help you. It can take dozens of years, okay. It's not something like you see in videos, okay, my 10 minutes video on how to astrally project, okay, or follow my guided meditation. Everyone nowadays is doing guided meditations, okay, and I'm not blaming them. They're trying to help, but unfortunately those people are just poor slaves of their mind, okay. They're thinking that if they're speaking something to themselves and then they're putting some music in the background, they're actually doing good. I mean, poor souls. Yes, I know I might sound like a very sarcastic person. Quite I am, yes, and sarcasm, I know it is an aspect of subjectivity, and I'm as objective as possible, but again, you can't be fully objective, okay. So I will always present my subjectivity as well, with also a part of objectivity, okay. Now, unfortunately, these YouTube channels, okay, many of these YouTubers don't know that YouTube as a platform, it doesn't do this on purpose, but okay, the codecs that YouTube is using and a lot of that distorts your music, and your much of the music that you're hearing there, 432 hertz and the such, it's not necessarily 432 hertz, okay? And a lot of these sites actually, there is actually one that I heard disallows, like fully disallows 432 hertz music, okay? Now I'm not sure if they're actually testing each and every new song, but okay, many people unwittingly create 440 hertz music, which was the vibration the Earth reached when, you know, we were during the World War II, okay? It is a vibration of full chaos, hatred, and repulsion, okay? And many of these meditations can accidentally be, you know, thrown into this vibration, because a lot of the frequencies that you will upload on different platforms that you may use, like YouTube and the such, unwillingly will be simply distorted from your 432 hertz, okay, if you're capable of creating 432 hertz, okay? And worse than that, there are also a lot of frequencies you may hear on the internet, and those you're not sure if they actually have a good impact on you. Now, if you're having bad dreams, or you're not when you wake up, you're not waking up restfully, well, most likely you shouldn't listen to that again, okay? Now again, waking up unrestfully is something that can happen out of other sources, yes, but you have to understand the mind functions in cycles of 90 minutes when you sleep. When you listen to meditations, don't listen to meditations for hours, okay? Arrange them in such a way that, you know, you listen to that for almost 90 minutes, then you have 90 minutes of rest, and then you you put another meditation if you so want, okay? If you listen to meditations in, you know, like constantly for hours on end, you're gonna screw up your mind. The more you screw up your mind, the more open you are to hallucinations, because your mind is no longer functioning correctly. And when the mind doesn't function correctly, it's a big problem, because the way the mind functions, that's your reality. When the mind functions in hallucinations, you will believe that those are your reality. And yes, those are your reality, but they are not the real reality, okay? Every reality that you experience, it is real only for yourself. Even your hallucinations and your dreams and the such, yes, they are real, okay? Everything of those is real, okay? But is real only to yourself, okay? It doesn't mean that it will match the other realities, so it is very preferable that you keep a lot of things to yourself until you become very aware of a lot of the subtleties of the mind, okay? I know I'm quite aware of those to a certain extent, because I've been very introspective for a lot of years, okay? At least 15 years of deep introspection, and constantly bombarding the universe with questions, receiving answers from that and guidance. And well, this is my own experience, okay? Now, don't take me as some kind of guru and such. I might be and I don't know, but I'm not gonna claim myself as one, okay? What a guru means basically is a huge amount of you know, awareness, okay? Awareness is all, okay, for a guru. Now, I might have a lot of awareness, but there are also deeper aspects, okay, to becoming a guru, not just awareness, okay? So all these hallucinations that people have, okay, they might point people towards having an idea or an impression that they're having astral projections, okay? Now the question is, what about dreams, okay? Like when you dream, don't you, you know, like astrally project? Well, astral projection, as it is called here, okay, it is unintentional, okay? Intentional means conscious. When you're sleeping, in most of the situations, you're unconscious, okay? Now, when you're sleeping, you're not necessarily astrally projecting, okay? You might have a lot of dreams in which you see yourself, and you might have, you know, you might be in a body, just like I've seen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the bliss body, okay? Because that's what astral projection means. You're just using one of the bodies of the mind, and you're exploring different dimensions, okay? All those different dimensions exist in a parallel way, and well, you'll see them most likely the way you see this dimension that you see, okay? It's just that you might catch a glimpse of certain things that most likely may lie hidden from you, because a lot of the beings that you can meet in other dimensions, most likely, definitely, like 100%, they don't have any means and business with you, okay? But at times they might react in certain ways, because the reaction that you put out and the vibration that you put out, it's what will guide them to react towards you. If you put out a lot of fear, that fear causes a lot of misery and pain towards almost each and every entity around, so most likely that's why they will lash at you, okay? Now when you wake up, that body is terminated, okay? That's what I perceived. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm just putting this idea. That body is terminated. It's like, its hit points have been reduced to zero, okay? Now when you project with such bodies, okay, you also have what I call a stamina, okay? You can only experience a certain amount, and the stamina is improved by your certain capability of awareness, which is your inner strength, okay? Now the more aware you become, the more you can actually remember things that you have experienced, okay? Now many of the things you won't remember, not because you're not strong enough, but because they won't make any sense to your mind. You have to understand that when you explore different dimensions, okay, those dimensions may simply not have any logic to you, even if when you look at them it's exactly the same things that you'll see. You might see extra things, some of the things you'll simply not see because each and every thing exists in certain dimensions, okay? Even the brain is said to manifest in all the 11 main dimensions, and well, most likely it manifests in sub-dimensions as well. But let's not dive into this because it's a lot of work, okay? So the point is, okay, so it assumes the existence of a soul, okay? Now what I said about the soul, I said yes, it's basically the bliss body, that furthest part of you, okay? Now just because you're having dreams in which you're moving around and also consciously, it doesn't mean astral projection, okay? Astral projection is not that, okay? If you take drugs, that's not astral projection for sure, okay? Because if you take drugs, your mind is put to sleep, so what you're experiencing, you're not experiencing consciously, okay? You're becoming more and more unconscious in a way, okay? You're allowing things from your past to spring out, because if you become unconscious, you're actually connecting yourself to things from the past. So what you're experiencing can actually be some experiences of the past, or most likely they will be hallucinations. Why I will always cling towards hallucinations is because drugs trigger hallucinations, okay? They break the mind in a certain way or disallow certain chemical processes of the brain, therefore allowing certain hallucinations to trigger. Now as I said, hallucinations are real for you only, okay? Now there are ways of actually using certain drugs in certain techniques to actually have almost something as astral projection, okay, or astral projection itself. But do take into account that this requires a lot, like literally a huge amount, beyond understanding amount of well, the Indians would call it sadhana, okay, concentration, okay, and work towards that. You might have to work several lifetimes to achieve such a level, okay, and you will find the right people to do that, because astral projection is something that you will usually do with several people. There are numerous amounts of there are several techniques of protection that you can use, and in the end, astral projection has no spiritual value, okay? It is done for several reasons, okay, and those people prefer to keep those reasons to themselves, okay, because you simply can't have everyone try astral projection, because the greatest problem with astral projection is not those beings that have attacked you. No. Astral projection, if done wrong, it will simply fuck up your mind, and even irreversibly. It can break something within you irreversibly, and it's not good to live life in a broken body, okay? It won't break your physical body necessarily, but what's the purpose of living a life, if you're simply crazy and you're suddenly becoming nothing else than testing material for, psychiatry wards, or most likely, you're not conscious, so you simply can't fight for yourself, so you become some black market material, okay? So that is no way of living life, okay? So I would advise you to quit speaking about astral projection unless you want to really feel that. You have to find some of those very rare people who actually know how to do this. Usually in India, in some parts of America, there might be still some people who may. South Americas, and yes, you just have to find those people. It's a lot of searching, I guess, but well, All that I can say is, well, astral projection is something very complex. It is very deep. I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm just minimizing the amount of illusions and the level of hallucination that people are going through. And these poor slaves of their minds simply have to wake up, okay? Because through these hallucinations, unfortunately, you're still miserable in your life because you're creating a lot of pain. You're creating these illusions that you're superior to others, you're different than others, and you're creating separation. That is why you are suffering, because through separation you're running away from your authenticity. And running away from your authenticity, the more you do it, the more you suffer. That's how things work, that's how this universe works. It's not me, it's not my wish. That's how the universe works, okay? Becoming enlightened means realizing how trapped you are within your mind. If you have an impression that if you think that you're not trapped in your mind, other people are, you're definitely trapped in your own cage, okay? And you're far away from becoming enlightened, okay? This is a video that I can create on its own, so hopefully you've liked the type of content that I'm creating. Feel free to like and subscribe. I would tell you not to judge things that I say too much, not because I want people to believe them blindly. No, I don't want this, but the moment you feel repulsion towards what I say, do take the time to simply take into account what created that grudge towards what I'm saying, okay? Because what I'm saying comes from different planes of existence and understanding. Yes, I'm not saying superior, I'm saying different, okay? And it will piss off a lot of people because illusions exist because of certain thought forms, okay, that you have been creating, that have been passed on to you, that you have unconsciously accepted, or you required because, let's say, your life contract kind of required that, okay? So all this being said, people have to understand that they are slaves of a lot of illusions, although they think that they are free, okay? So when you have a grudge against me, I will always pull out grudges, okay? Because it is part of myself, okay? It is part of who I am, and I know that a part of me, well, I am the shadow of people. People will naturally feel uncomfortable around me because I have this sense, I have this functional aspect of me to simply pull out whatever people don't like. That is why some people go towards me and some people simply don't like me, okay? Naturally, they don't know anything about me, but they simply don't like me, okay? Now the reason why they don't like me is because those illusions within them, those thought forms, okay, are conscious enough that they shouldn't challenge me because I might actually make that person aware of those thought forms. When you become aware of the thought forms affecting you, that's when you start making steps towards realizing how much of a slave you can be towards your mind, because you're actually enslaving yourself, okay, by creating these thought forms. How I call this is, I've been presenting this in previous videos indirectly and directly. Basically, when you have a belief, okay, you're creating a deity in your mind, okay, and that deity, okay, is a thought form. Thought forms require feeding because if you don't feed them, they will dissipate and you'll be free of them. But because of this fear, okay, that you want a belief, okay, you want to believe in something, and because of all this karma that we have, especially in the Western worlds of, repression, okay, because Christianity hasn't done anything else than repressing anything and everything, okay, people still, and this actually exists within us still, okay, each and every one are actually working towards removing this karmic repression, okay, this fear of repression. And because of this, so many people, once they have a certain idea, they want desperately that idea to be theirs, okay, because they're still afraid subconsciously and unconsciously also, because the unconscious is the deepest levels, okay, and these are thousands of layers probably, and they are the layers of you and how you've been impacted by your ancestors, and especially your ancestors' unconsciousness, okay? So people are so desperate about having their own ideas, and they still clutch to those so strongly, okay, and these also lead to unfortunate hallucinations, okay, and illusions that people will embrace, and when you embrace an illusion or any thought that you embrace, you're technically creating a little deity. Okay, so all your ideas, when you're creating these deities, you're technically creating a pantheon for yourself. And to support those ideas, you need stories. Okay, when you ask yourself why, okay, why questions can only be met with stories. Okay, because from your standpoint, if you haven't experienced something, it is only a story. If you have experienced it and you're listening to someone else's opinion, okay, to gather a bit more ideas, a part of that is no longer a story because you have experienced a part of it, but a part of it will still remain a story because it's that person's experience only. Okay, other people may have experienced that as well, but they experience that in their own unique way. So a part of their stories will only remain unique. They can only share those experiences, but again, those experiences in part will also remain a story. Okay, and stories can easily feed untrained minds deities. Okay, because those deities, those thought forms that you're creating, they need constant feeding. Okay, so you're also creating, let's say, the preachers. Okay, those stories, each story is like a preacher. Okay, it exists to bolster, okay, to boost that being's existence. Okay, that deity, that thought form that you've basically created. Okay, so it's something as simple as that, but people are making it a huge thing. Okay, and there's also this funny thing that in this universe, this solar system of ours is nothing than a speck of dust, in which this planet of ours is a smaller, you know, I almost said more smaller. It's a smaller speck of dust. Okay, but so many people have this impression that they're a big person in this world. Okay, now take into account big person. Okay, person means a persona. It is a mask. It is something that you have created. It is nothing else than a bliss for many, because many people say, hey, you know what, ignorance is bliss. I can think of whatever I want. Yes, you can think of whatever you want, but those things, if you don't think of those consciously, if you're thinking of those unconsciously, those things don't even belong to you, and you're not aware which belongs to you and which doesn't. This is one of the trickiest things. And further than that, many people say ignorance is bliss, but no one asks themselves one of these things that, well, I've had an epiphany of, whose bliss is that? Because definitely it's not yours. You'll never see a happy ignorant person. These things can't exist together. Okay, these things can't be together. Okay, fully ignorant people, they're always miserable, because ignorance is as far away as possible from your authenticity. Okay, it's the exact opposite part. And as I said, the more you run away from your authenticity, the more miserable you are. Okay, and it's not because I said so, it's because that's how it is. Okay, if you don't believe me, well, all the misery in your life exists because you're making expectations, and expectations mean not knowing the situation. Okay, and not knowing the situation means you're not authentic, because if you're authentic to a certain thing, you'd be fully aware, so you'd do the homework for that, so you definitely know how things actually work, right? So yes, all this being said, let's actually wrap this video in here. There may be a few things I may have missed. Well, you're loved and appreciated. Take care of yourself, take care of your mind. Yes, don't mind the illusions, and well, just become more aware of who and what you are. Okay, I will always keep up to this work. Okay, I will post videos every now and then. I won't post videos daily necessarily. I may post several videos in a day. So the point about this is very simple. Okay, you can rest assured that I will keep creating videos in which I will bring down illusions. Okay, so feel free to share some of your experience as well. Feel free to share these videos with your friends, especially if you think that it can help wake them up, and especially if they don't seem to be listening to you. Okay, feel free to guide people towards my account, and well, share experiences with me, share some of your wisdom, and well, all this being considered and said, you are loved and appreciated. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Ferenc Board signing out.